Hey guys, today I'm doing an impromptu review of Faded and Mortal Blitz, both small PSVR games, and I'm doing this one a little bit more off the cuff, so we'll see how this goes. So in Faded, you play as Ulfer, who at the very beginning of the game is dead, and basically he's being revived by a Valkyrie who tells you that she'll bring you back if you sacrifice your voice. And this is basically the game's way of implementing that technology you see in Gary the Goal, the famous PSVR game Gary the Goal, where you shake your head up or down, or up and down or left and right, depending on if you want to say yes or no to different questions. Throughout the game you answer various questions, none of which have any real consequences, which is unfortunate because I do think the technology is cool and could be implemented in a clever way if any thought was put into it and there were branching paths depending on what answers you gave. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have any of that.
There's a lever! Uncle, can I pull it? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Unfortunately, this game also doesn't have much of a game to it. The first half of the game is especially very, very dull. You're basically just following characters from one conversation to the next, and the story itself, while I give the developer credit for trying to put a story to the game, which we don't really see a whole lot of in PSVR games so far, it's not interesting. Well, at first the game feels a little Skyrim-esque, which gave me hope, but it's not like Skyrim at all. It's very, very linear, to the point that it's difficult to even fail in the game. For instance, at one part you're hunting deer, and if you miss the deer, if you can't scare it away and chase after it or anything like that, you just keep shooting until you hit the deer. They slow down the game a whole lot as well, with unnecessary dialogue that feels like it's there just to add more length to the game, and the game itself is only about an hour and a half long. They also make the character walk very, very slowly, to the point that it's maddening. Sometimes he'll speed up a little bit, but even then the quickest you'll be going is a slight jog at best. There are puzzles in the game. The puzzles are very easy to do. The only reason this game is worth playing at all, I would say, is for sequences that happen in the latter half of the game. There's a kind of cool chase sequence where giants are trying to kill you while you're leading a horse-drawn carriage through a canyon. That part's pretty cool. There are one or two other sequences that are okay. Overall, the game is pretty boring though. The best thing I can say about it is I really liked the art design. The characters themselves look a little odd, especially around the eyes. They look oddly buggy, but the environment looks really nice. I really like the environment, and you can see that if there was an actual game here, I would have enjoyed these environments quite a lot, especially when you're going through the caves. It almost feels like you're in line for Indiana Jones, which made me... That was the most excited I was in this game, was when I felt like I was in line for Indiana Jones, and it made me realize I wanted a Disneyland PSVR game. So I think that's a little telling of the quality of this game. The game's only $10, so it's not a huge sink of money, but I genuinely don't think it's worth buying even if it goes on sale. The main grab of the game is the story, because there's very little game here, and I don't think the story's interesting, and I won't, in case you want to play it, I won't spoil it for you, but it just sort of ends at a really weird spot. I don't know if maybe they were expecting to do DLC, or if they're expecting a sequel or what, but it's... I don't think they'll be getting it, and even if they did it, I don't think I would pursue it. So yeah, that's Faded. Now moving on to Mortal Blitz, which that's a hell of a name. It's basically Time Crisis in VR. If Time Crisis was a little worse. Neither of these games are unfortunately very good. I'm pairing them in the same review because I don't think either of them are worth a full review, to be frank. And because both of them are made by smaller studios, these games are missing something that is quite essential, and that's to be fun. Now, Mortal Blitz, it has moments of fun. You know, it is an arcade shooter, very much so. So you're going through these missions from point to point. You have I think 4 different types of weapons you can get, and so I mean, and it being the only arcade shooter there is, and one of the very few first-person shooters on the store, it has its moments. It is kind of fun. Where it falters is it's not as smooth of a game as you would want it to be, and what I mean by that is transitioning between weapons is not quick. You have to unequip the weapon that you have, and then you have to reach out with your hand and hold down a button, and that'll make a wheel spin around, and when the wheel is complete you pick up the weapon and then you can shoot. But the weapons you can get, they don't last very long. They're very low ammunition on all the weapons you have, and they don't feel especially powerful either. And they don't have the impact that you would want from powered up weapons. So 80% of the game you'll be using these pistols, which are little more than pea shooters. So it doesn't empower you. And there's this system in the game, there's this game mechanic where if you shoot someone, eventually they'll get stunned. And then you can unequip your gun, and then you point. It's the same exact thing as equipping a weapon would be if you found one in the environment. You point your hand at them, and then the wheel spins around, and then it'll push them up in the air, and time will slow down, and you have a bullet time sort of thing where you can shoot them and get more points, or you can shoot the people around them to just, you know, have a bit of an edge on them. But like I said before, it's not smooth. None of it feels like it was made to be a really fast-paced, smooth thing. I love the idea of a bullet time mechanic, and it is rewarding when you're in bullet time. It's fun when you're in it. Just the process to get there is not as it's not as well integrated as I would like it to be. The levels themselves are pretty dull for the most part. A lot of it, you're just going to be walking through these darkly lit corridors that all start to feel very samey as you go along. There's very little enemy variety. There's basically only 2 different types of enemies. There's soldiers, and then there's these demon type things that are not heavily inspired design-wise. I think there's a story. I'm not sure. I actually played through the first level twice just to see if there was a good setup, and I have no idea what we're doing. I don't even know what our group is. I can't tell if we're like a mercenary group or if we're working for the government. I have no idea, but the story is not necessarily the most important part of an arcade shooter. But this one is especially bare bones. The people that you're working with, there's this guy and this girl that you see throughout the story. I don't even know their names. Whenever one of your companions dies, because you'll be going through a level, and every now and then you'll have soldiers fighting on your side. Whenever one of them dies, no emotions, no impact whatsoever from the rest of your crew. In fact, I think at one point they actually made a joke after one of your fellow soldiers died.
Oh, these guys stink.
So that was great. The sound design is especially atrocious. It's most notable in the title scene when your companions around you are just walking around. I mean, obviously that's not the most important part of the game, but it carries over into the actual game itself. None of the gun sounds are very impressive. I would say that the game is worth it if it was a little longer. The game is $20, and there are only 5 levels in it. Each of them only take about 5 minutes to go through. I think the final level takes a little bit longer. But the real kicker is that once you beat the 5th level, there's this message telling you that they plan to do more levels. And it's like, oh cool, they plan to update the game, but the state that the game's in right now with only 5 levels, it takes under an hour to beat for $20. That is insane to me. That is not worth your money whatsoever. I would say maybe if it goes on sale, pick it up if you really just want to get an arcadey first-person shooter for PSVR, because it does it good enough, I would say. I would say this game is mediocre, but if you really just want to satiate that need for an arcade shooter, then I think it does it well enough. It's really annoying to me that the game ends so quickly, and then they say that they plan on basically finishing the game at the end of it. So I can't say that you should actually support this at its full price, maybe discounted, but even then, you don't really need to play this. So yeah, that was my first of these impromptu reviews. I don't know how it'll go. We'll see how this turns out. Starblood Arena, PSVR game that just came out. I'm gonna buy it right now, and I'm gonna play that. I'm looking forward to reviewing that, because that actually looks like a game that might be worth my time. It's multiplayer focused, so we'll see if there's enough people playing it that I can actually play it. But yeah, I am looking forward to that, and you can expect me to review that in the future. Alright, see you guys later.